In this video, I'm going to showcase my workflow for recreating Shrek's toilet in Blender. This video should be easy to follow along if you mastered the basics of Blender. Let's begin. The first thing that I did was to do some digging to find a good reference photo. I actually found a perfect image for creating the toilet in 3D, and I will link it down below. Create a new Blender file and delete everything in the scene. You can bring the image into the software by simply dragging it into the viewport. If you select the image and go to the image settings, you can lower the opacity of the image for easier modeling. I created the front planes by adding a plane and aligning it according to the image. You can add loop cuts and move them along the z-axis according to the reference. This was the same idea for all of the other planes in the scene. Moving on to the logs, I added a plane, then merged it into one vertex in edit mode. I extruded that vertex according to the reference image, and added a skin modifier and a subdivision modifier to make it round. You can press Ctrl A to scale down the mesh in edit mode. Since I created only the front of the toilet, I had to create the other three sides. I decided to duplicate the front part to align it according to my eye. You'll have to rotate them and scale the planes to make them fit for your needs. Creating the moon on the door was really easy. I added a circle and scaled it until it fit around the moon on the reference image. I enabled proportional editing, then dragged the right part of the circle until it reached the moon. Then, I did more precise aligning. Now, you can fill the face by pressing A and then F. Extrude this face, and then, if you have the bool tool add-on enabled, you can select the door, then the moon, and press Ctrl-. This will perform a boolean action and will create a moon-shaped hole in the door. After I finished with that, I moved on to creating the ropes. They were just circular curves with bevel depth to them. I moved and scaled them according to the reference. Made holes for the ropes by adding a cylinder, scaling it down and placing it into the correct location. Then, I performed the same boolean technique as I mentioned before to create the holes. After we finish that, we move on to creating the nature. Start by adding a plane and subdivide the plane a bunch of times. Then start to sculpt it. I sculpt it according to the scene from the movie, but you can do it however you want. Adding more detail to the plane is really easy. You can add a displacement modifier, then press on New Image. In the image section, select Clouds. Then play around with the settings until it looks good. In order to create nature in 3D, you will have to have nature assets. I have a nature pack for my use, but I will link an easy to follow tutorial by CG Geek about how to create them. If you desire, he sells them for a reasonable price online. The secret to create a realistic nature floor is just layering assets on top of each other, using different particle systems and vertex groups to give the render more life. As usual, I used the HDRI to light my scene. I picked up a HDRI that fitted for my needs and for the story of the render. I chose at the end a forest HDRI from HDRI Heaven. Now that we're finished with the nature, we can move on to the texturing. For the toilet, I found a good texture of old wood from textures.com. I will link the texture down below. And for the ground, I just found a good ground texture online. Don't forget to apply all transforms to the models before texturing them. After that, I unwrapped the models by using the Cube UV unwrap method. I scaled the UVs and placed them in the correct place on the texture. You can add more details by plugging the image into the bump and into the roughness. If you want to learn about understanding roughness, you can check our last video out. Now, we are finished. After some compositing in Photoshop, this is my final result. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.